Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild remote lands here of Scotland. And today I've come to Glen Esk because I'm hoping to document a piece of history that I've never seen before on the channel. I was up here one time before at an old abandoned settlement. It's like a whole abandoned village here up in the hills of Glen Esk, and there's loads of little remains of different buildings. But apparently the last time when I was here I actually missed a historical detail, which was an old cheese press, which is a cool old bit of kit that a lot of farms had back in the day when they used to make their own cheese, and they made all sorts of stuff back in the ancient times. But a croft like this was most likely in its prime back probably like in the 1300s and times like that. So just think of the ancient historical events that may have occurred here over the years, potentially even during the Highland clearances and times like that. So because of the slight windy conditions today folks, I'm actually using the windsock once again on the camera, and that just keeps the breeze off the microphone. And what a difference it made the last time when I was at the old lime kiln at Bodden, because that was an extreme scenario of wind. Compared to today, it's just like breeze blowing through, so the windsock should make all the difference for the more crisp audio. And wow, this is the old farm road that I'm walking up. You can imagine the horse and carts at one time that maybe went up and down here. Imagine the noise of the hoofs or the old wooden wheels rolling down. And I can see old boundary lines and walls all around, and the people that had these crofts were the first people to actually drain these lands and turn them into workable agricultural fields. And we can still see the remains of that today. Most of these fields now used for sheep. There's a lot of shepherding goes up in these Scottish glens here. Wow, this is an absolutely massive settlement. And at one time there was probably all sorts of little buildings and maybe local businesses related to this site. Sometimes there was blacksmiths and joiners and all sorts of people like that related to the farming, building the tools and the implements. Even shoeing the horses back at that time would have been the job of the blacksmith. And just check it out, now we're within this complex of houses here. I can actually hear a power saw running in the distance. I'm gassed out folks, we've just made it up that steep farm track. And here we are once again, standing in the heart of Scottish history on the channel. It's often amazing coming back to places like this at different times of the year. They often have a different character depending on the land or the weather. And it's just amazing to think about the people that maybe spent their lives here, the community at a certain time, the hustle and bustle, and then one day deserted, maybe razed to the ground by fire. And so like a lot of the old crofts and areas that we visit on the videos here on the channel, look, you can see giant chunks of the natural quartz built into the walls, and that's found all around here basically in the land. It's a natural occurring kind of thing around here, and you see it all over the place, the magnificent pure white stone. And look at this, the wall's actually starting to fall down, and that's why it's cool to come on these adventures and record history before it does crumble. Every year more and more these places just end up crumbling, turning back to a pile of stones up on the hill. This wild wind and weather up here can be extreme at times. From the dry stone construction on these walls, I can actually see the differences in the quality of stone which had been selected for what must have been the houses here on the site. Like this one here, the stones have got a different character. At one time originally I would have had limestone mortar in between, which is all just pretty much washed out. Check it out, you can actually see some of the old mortar in that hole there. Wow, folks, the last remains of Scottish history here on the hill. And I'm often just blown away when I'm walking around by what I'm seeing. It's almost like travelling back in time. Each of these little rooms, just check this out, maybe an old pig shed or whatever. Look how thick the walls were. And credit to them, they still stand here to tell the wee story of history. Look, there's maybe been like a door or something mounted into this one. Sometimes areas like this are still obviously used for shepherding and lambing, and at this time of year it's almost like lambing season. Well, it already has kind of started, but it's not in full swing yet. But areas like this are prime agricultural land. It's amazing just to think the houses here were the people who first created that land. From this fence line upwards, it's just a pure wild hill. And that can give you an idea of how all this land may have looked before it was cleared and tamed, we'll call it, folks, because it's so boggy and wet around these places. Maybe at one time these hills also had more trees and shrubbery on them as well. Another thing that goes on in these glens quite a lot is the gamekeeping, because still to this day there's always shooting and things like that. That's what these pheasants are fleeing about at. A lot of the game birds like that you see flying about are actually kind of reared here on these estates for the purpose of shooting. Look at this is a super boggy area here, but I want to go over to this little cutout here in the rock, folks. Check this out for a detail of the history. Wow, I love to see that. That was most likely for the sheep. These are all little sheep fields and pens at this end. That's how it's not the size of the man. It's obviously the size of the animal. There was probably another door where the farmer could go out and in, maybe in this area here. And they were probably just sorting out the sheep and the animals. Wow, this landscape's incredible. There's all these rocky peaks just kind of sticking out of the hill. And I think I'll have to go through this gate, because the last time I never went to that side of the fence to have a look, and I believe that's where the ancient cheese press is. So let's get on, folks, and have a look. I'm glad I wore the wellies when I see how boggy and wet this area is here. So here we are now, folks. We're up at the top side of this croft, and I've been walking through it for so long, it gives you an idea of the size of these ancient settlements. Maybe this was like one of the main villages at the foot of Glen Esk here at one time. The way everything's destroyed and fallen down though, it just makes you think, was it destroyed at a certain time? Maybe burnt, smashed down. Maybe the occupants driven out of their homes and land at a certain time. And then a place like this, it's just almost a ghost of history when you see it. Just think how long ago these stones were actually laid in here, and you can see it's just natural stones off the hill they've used. And that's often how you can tell which was like houses or buildings for the people to live in compared to the areas which were originally built for the animals. There's always a clear difference with the stone selection. And look at the way this wall here is built. It comes round at a funny angle and then comes back out, but it looks like that's always been how it is. Wow, look, there's a big hole under the wall, but I believe it's just the way it's actually eroded out. I don't think it's been a secret stash or anything back in the day. Maybe a big stone's rolled out of here and tumbled, and then the nature of these stones above, it's just been able to hold it up. I'm just keeping my eyes peeled as well, folks, for this historical wonder that I'm actually looking for. There's so many buildings, because it's way down, pretty much to the roadside is where the history begins, with the old wall up to the foot of the settlement, and then we're quite far up on the hill and there's still just more and more buildings. So the interesting thing with an ancient settlement like this, it might have been using this, there's a source of water coming down like a proper stream, so I'm not sure if they had an old water wheel or a mill wheel or anything like that down here. Maybe a settlement like this is too ancient for that to even be a thing. Wow, folks, this is so cool to see. I'm always just imagining the people that originally walked here, what they might be wearing or what they might be speaking about. Different things back at that time would have been the topic of conversation. Look at this, the way the wall steps in here. It's almost like raised up from the height of the lower field. And it's got this kind of little corner bit. A lot of the farming practices and things they did back then is of so long ago that maybe the things we are seeing, you can't really tell what it was actually for. It could have been for one little individual thing that they had. Whereas nowadays, obviously, farming's just such a different game. Wow, but it's still for the same purpose. The purpose of survival, and the amount of food that would have grown here would have been enough probably to sustain this little settlement, and then maybe also trade with nearby other little settlements or crofts, because these lands here in Scotland were just peppered with these little agricultural settlements. Look at this, there's a massive bird of prey up here circling. I'm not sure, it looks bigger than a buzzard, but it doesn't look like it's got a tail like a red kite, so I'm not sure. Wow, I can hear like a waterfall over here. We're going to have to go and investigate, folks. This is so cool. Wow, a little paradise corner of Scotland. And look how this just kind of waves down. They've built right to the edge of this with their foundations. And it's almost like when they've put this field in, they've put extra earth to level it. It's like it's completely landscaped. Yes, check this out, folks. I came to see the history, but we end up seeing an incredible little waterfall. It is pure paradise once again here on the video. I love the sound of that as it trickles down past. Wow, this is amazing. Just think, this comes all the way down from the top of that massive hill up there. What a journey through the land a stream like that makes. And then it's interesting because it's got all these individual boulders here. I'm not sure if there's been more history or what has actually been going on here, but it's so crazy just to think of and ask the question of history. I'm just noticing there's like another wall line further over here that I never even knew existed the last time. Yeah, so further up the hill here, I'm definitely seeing evidence of more history, folks, because look at this outline here. Clearly with the eye I can see it. There's a hollow in the ground here with a wall around it. See, there could have even been more like houses or little residence for some of the people. And it looks like there may have been a row of buildings up here. And also the fact it's quite near the water makes a lot of sense, because often humans would have little settlements and stuff next to water. Yeah, when you see the shape of it, you can see the clear outline here, folks. It's history that's so long ago, like hundreds of years, maybe even 1,000 years ago. Again, these stones were laid in as somebody's wall. And it's mad just to uncover that as I walk about. See the different history from the different times. Try and figure it out. Yeah, look, here we go, folks. This is it. 100%. This is a constructed square in the land here. You can clearly see it. Look at it here. It's like these big squares are up here on the hill behind the old ancient village. Wow. It just shows when you go and explore, there's just history all around in Scotland to be found. Just check it out. I wonder if this is maybe their ancient burial land up here on the hill. Sometimes I come out with a lot of theories and things when I'm exploring these places, but it is interesting just to imagine all facets of their ancient lives. So maybe this ancient ridge here in the land was actually intentional, maybe an old track between the buildings which at one time stood at each side, and this is maybe an ancient road leading up here on the hill, because every now and again I can see these clear outlines of stones from an ancient time. From the way they look, they definitely look like they're older than the rest of those houses at the bottom of the hill. Because look, here's another one, and it's not even a big square, But it's a clear square in the ground, folks. See here, I'm right on the edge of it, and you can see the far side. See, with a hole this size, you would often think if it's near water it could be a well, because the water would seep through to an area like this. But the fact is there's multiple of these all in a row, and I can see them here. This is another one, and they're all about the same size and they're square. So it is super interesting. Like, I love seeing stuff that I've never looked at before, and with a settlement like this where I have been before to explore it ages ago, I like to look at new things or different aspects of it when I come back, and look at things that I might have missed the last time. Wow, this is a cool little area. It's like a little hollow in the land, but that's where those square little buildings are, so it's interesting to see it from this angle. There's just more of these square buildings all the way up here, and it really does just ask the question of history, and like makes me wonder, like, what were they originally built for? So for being further up on the hill, this looks like the most fine kept piece of dyke, we'll call it. It looks like dry stone dyke here. Yeah, interesting, folks. There's just a small wall section here, and it does make you think, was there older buildings or other buildings where the stone was taken away to build newer projects and buildings in the area at a certain time? Because look at that, it's just a perfect section of wall, almost like it continued. So look at this, we've come over to the other side of this track to where we were walking up a minute ago, and we've got this other building here, ancient building remains, and it is amazing to see the way the stones is all constructed in here. And it's mad to think how much bigger this actual settlement has been than just the main buildings down there. Think of it when all these other sections were up here as well. It's been more of a thriving little settlement than what you would think at first glance. And it's mad to think what these little buildings here were, quite far away from the main settlement, but still it's been quite a main looking building, maybe even storage or whatever. And look at this here, folks. Wow. Right, this is interesting here, because this looks like the remains of an ancient dam that dates back to the time of this settlement. See, this is the crazy thing with my adventures, folks. I had been round and walked looking at some of the buildings before, but all this stuff here, it's just blowing my mind. It's new history that we've no documented. Look at this, there's some mad stonework going on here. Obviously, modern gamekeepers can often put in a little area like this, but I think with this one it's been an original dam for a farm water wheel. Yeah, this is interesting, folks, because look, there's a line of stones coming along in front of me, and then there's been other remains of little buildings. But look at this here. Wow, folks, check this out. This looks like an original little building which is in great condition. Because like I say, gamekeepers and stuff often do make an area like this for shooting, maybe even shooting ducks and stuff. But I think with this it looks like it's an original building that's either been dug out or constantly maintained, because look, you can see the actual stonework. See, it maybe has been made for a gamekeeper, because look at this, it's like they've poured cement into the floor. Yeah, so this maybe has been built in more modern times. It is interesting to theorise and think of this history though. Some of these buildings maybe were like this at a certain time for the animals or the sheep. And when you see the construction, it's hard just to know how old a thing like this is, because obviously when it's the natural stones off the hill, that's not changed. If you put them together the right way, nowadays it's the same as when you build it back 300 years ago or more. This is a proper little area. Often a gamekeeper would have an area like this for shooting deer or maybe even foxes. They would spend the night in a place like this with a rifle, maybe waiting for the right moment, sitting in silence until the animal comes by. But yeah, this looks like an original dam wall here, and I think at one time it looks like this has been cleared out a lot more. From what I'm seeing here, this dam does look original to the ancient farm, but this dam was maybe even feeding another house or croft nearby here. It may not have been this one that we saw. Yeah, look, this is interesting here. There's more strange stonework. And there's also more remains here of another building. This is what I love about these adventures, folks. Looking at all the wee nooks and crannies and just thinking of the folk that maybe walked up and down here at a certain time. An old dam keeper or mill keeper. Yeah, this is crazy, folks. Look at this. This is another one of these gamekeepers or shooters' huts, I believe. Let's take a proper look at it. A lot of the time they would have a wee dam like this for feeding a water wheel with like a sluice. But from here I'm not actually seeing where that leads out. Yeah, check it out. I think these are built for the gamekeeper in the land, folks. See, that's what I mean when I'm uncovering the historical layers and details. When you go around a place like this, you often have to analyse what you're seeing, so you can obviously make a correct judgment. But these are super interesting little bits. Must be cool to do a day shooting in a place like this. Look at that there. Look how mossy and green everything is. But you can see the more modern cement within the construction. And then check it out, folks, the old dam wall here. Wow, what a crazy bit of history this is. It's mad just like analysing what I'm seeing and trying to figure it out. And with this dam, I'm just like on the fence as to whether it's ancient or more modern. It really is hard to judge. The way that nature takes back over, the grass and greenery covers it up the same. Whether it's ancient or whether it's maybe 10 or 20 years old. Sometimes it just looks the same after a while. So now I'm going to head back across here and try and find that original historical detail that I was looking for when I first set off on this little mission here. So look, even at this side here, folks, more remains of more buildings, and that's just mad how many different buildings there's been at this site. The last time I came here I didn't even come through that gate, so basically everything we've seen today, it's all this fresh abandoned history here on the hill. So look at this, folks, we're now coming down what may have been one of the old tracks that came through the old settlement back in the day. It's like it's come along the back of this dyke and it's come down here, and this is an area that we've not looked at yet, and it's almost like there's been a wall here and then this has been their fields, but this area here has been a track coming down to where the river is. All the way along the side of this small field there's these other little buildings as well. There's just so much construction. Just look at that, the last remains where you can see the shape of that, the way it's built, it's just amazing. The big stones, carefully selected probably for the right buildings and the right positions. I don't know if some of them were actually shaped, because you can see it's a proper almost 90-degree corner there on the building. Wow, this is so special, folks. We're literally stepping back in time once again on this week's video. But I'm not seeing that cheese press that's apparently here at this site. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled. The adventure's not over yet. Yeah, look at this here. They've actually built the wall right down. See, I'm not sure how much this burn has actually meandered or carried away since its original construction here. But look, the old wall line goes through there. But there's another interesting detail, look, folks. There's actually more buildings at the far side. No way. Over where that tree is, I can literally see more buildings. It'd be so cool to go over there and have a look. Look at this, folks. This is crazy because I've got an eye for always looking down and checking for ticks. But look, this is crazy. Because on the tip of this blade of grass, I don't even know if it comes out on the camera, It's wobbling about so much. There's a tick on this blade of grass right there, folks, ready to grip onto somebody that comes along, and that shows it's tick season. So we'll have to be super careful. I have been keeping half an eye open here for ticks today, but I wasn't sure, and I thought maybe up here we're still early. But see the trouble now, folks, in Scotland, like there's just so many ticks. Once it comes into April, I would say, until the end of October, you have to watch out, because it's just an extreme situation. That just goes to show, I'll be lucky if there's probably not one on me. If you're walking through all this long grass today, through all this bogweed. Wow, I can't even believe that, folks. That's my first tick of 2024 right there. But luckily it wasn't on me, it was on the grass. But that's what they do, they climb up to the top of the blade of grass, and then when you go past, you brush against the blade of grass, and then it grabs onto you, and it'll just crawl around until it finds an area to bite. And yeah, you have to watch out if you're taking them off. You get a proper tick remover, because it obviously drinks the blood, and it puts its head so far into your skin that if you just scrape it off with your fingernail or something, it'll break inside, and then you can actually get bother. So you're better removing them properly with a tick remover, folks. So yeah, that was a crazy bit of nature that we just witnessed. But I am always kind of keeping half an eye open for that sort of thing. Ever since like the end of March, I've been thinking about that again. I remember last year it was Vane Castle I was at with the channel DJ, when we realised that the ticks were on us from the trees. So here we are, we're back round into this main farm complex here now, and I was just wanting to have a look and make sure that the cheese press is not actually down here. Yeah, look at it from this angle, folks. It's true, like, true history of Scotland here, just getting overtaken by nature and wildlife. And the whole place, it's so peaceful and quiet. On a day like today, it's actually Sunday, and like Glen Esk is super busy, but a lot of people go to the mainstream kind of touristy areas. But when I saw this on the hill, I thought I want to come and try and document as much of this forgotten history as possible before it has like completely gone. Look how well kept this wall here is. Absolutely amazing scenes once again on the channel, folks. And I'm just kind of picking a route down here. I'm trying to go different areas to where I went the last time I was here, so I see new things, document different parts of this history here. It is super wet down in the middle of this area, and I'm not sure what was originally in the middle of the site when it was a thriving, hustling, bustling settlement. Wow. I always say wow, but it's often when I turn around and I just see a scene like that with the moss on the rocks. It's just basically reminds me of the landscape. Like if you watch Braveheart and stuff, it's kind of set in that era, maybe like 1300s of Scotland. Settlements like this would have been in their prime at that time. That's the kind of people I love thinking about as I walk around. Maybe the clan members and stuff that at one time settled here and lived here, and think of their fashions with the old tweeds or the clothes they had made with the wool from their own sheep here in the land, dyed with the plants and the flowers from the plants that also grew in these lands, almost like an ancient camouflage. Using the natural colours of land and the cloth would often make you disappear in the land when you were hiding from the enemy or protecting your land. Look how this old wall is just right on the edge of the stream. And then this tree here is growing from probably since the time this was obviously all built. This tree wouldn't have even been here originally. But yeah, look how big it is. It's redirecting the burn. Whoa, look at these pheasants right here next to me. Just shows they were sitting in the grass and I didn't even notice. See, another amazing thing, folks, I literally have not seen that cheese press, and I've been around all these bits that I hadn't explored before at this area. But it has been a fun adventure, and that's what these videos are all about. Just often getting out of the house and going and seeing something cool, something that's often hardly ever seen. Even on the Scottish tourist maps and stuff, you're not going to see a lot of these little corner settlements and hidden places. It's cool just to keep the story of them alive and show where they are and show what remains. And I think this has been some kind of little track here coming up into this corner, because the original wall lines are still in great condition. The further down the hill you come, the conditions of the walls is so much better, and ever since I saw that tick, I keep on looking down more and more just to be sure and to be safe here. And also today's video will be a great test to see if this windsock has improved the audio, because I can guarantee you if I didn't use it today there would have been a lot of wind in the audio, whereas I reckon it'll have kept the worst of the breeze away from the mic. And that is what it's all about, folks. I want to bring you the finest quality adventures here on the channel. There's nothing worse than the sound of the wind. And like last weekend I couldn't even go exploring properly because of the power of the wind. Here, look at this, folks. This is incredible. Here, I believe this may have been, looks like it's been the site of an old water wheel. This is incredible. So that shows that dam on the hill may well have actually been, this is what it's been, folks. That dam on the hill will be original to this site here. And those other two areas we saw that were like little circles will have been changed and developed by the modern day gamekeeping industry, but the actual dam and source of water will be original. And it was probably like they used to dig a channel under the ground and then cover it over with stones, and it would have come right under the ground to here, because look, here's the square in the ground, the perfect stone square where the wheel would have been, and then this would have been the mill shed at this side. That is the kind of history that I love to see, folks. Again, this will be filled up with tons and tons of stones. Maybe all the wall and stuff from this mill shed is now down in here below my feet. But you can tell from the shape of it. We saw a water wheel similar to this a couple of weeks ago when we went to that croft at Glen Esk, and you can see the same characteristics. And look at this! Check it out, folks. There's where the original wheel had been mounted. See, we're piecing together the history, folks. Until that moment you were probably thinking like, how do I know that? How can I prove this is where the water wheel is? And there it is. The proof has just raised its head. See, this is the history. I didn't know any of this the last time. I never saw any of this. And it just shows my theory, the way I figure things out. I'm actually correct with a building like this being the mill shed. I had no idea. Wow. So there's the original man door there coming into this. And just think, that shows they had actually properly engineered that waterway from up the hill. And the last time I never noticed that was there, so I didn't think that they had a water wheel. But it also shows a lot of the water which is making the central land there really boggy is probably caused from the old waterway being blocked under the ground, and it's just forcing that water up to the surface now, and it'll be going anywhere it can. Whereas originally it would have come down here, fed the water wheel, and then returned away down probably to the burn or whatever at the bottom of the hill. Wow, folks, I'm hyped after seeing that. Even though we never saw that cheese press yet, like, there we go. Fresh history of Scotland, never seen before on the channel. Look how thick this wall has been. This is no joke, this building here. Wow, it's almost like this is an older wall here, and that mill wall has been built separate against it. Some crazy layers of history in a place like this, like I've said many times in the video. And then uncovering it and piecing the little layers together, you can paint a picture of the original occupants living in a place like this. The goings on, maybe the banter and the noise. Anyway, folks, I'm going to head down off this hill. It looks like there is a rainstorm moving in, but I'm literally away to record a second video today at a second location, so yeah, I'm going to keep this one moving. Look at this here. you can actually see the remains of this old wall, but I think it's been a walkway which has led alongside these buildings, and it's been a walkway which took you along the side of this field. It's amazing how all this has been so well constructed and built. Yeah, we'll take a quick look. I think I'll walk this way back round so we don't miss any of the history, folks. At the end of this video I will link the other video when I came here, because I look more in depth and more in detail at a lot of these buildings at that time. So that's cool if you want to piece that other side of the history together. Anyway, let's head on out of here, folks. That's all I can say. I love these adventures where I'm just kind of spontaneously going left and right, and then you find the wee nuggets. Finding that water wheel location has just been so cool, and it'll be interesting if I can see where that water was actually coming out at the bottom of the site. So here we go, folks. We can see where this lead would have come down after it had fed the water wheel. It would have come right down through the property and then out below that wall. And then that's what we can see here, still flowing away down the side of the road. Probably at one time a well-kept dike line there. Wow, it's so cool, folks. I love seeing the history and then uncovering the layers and then documenting a thing like that before it's forgotten. Because if some of those main stones there get covered over, you wouldn't be able to see the footprint of the water wheel pit. And then it's harder then to piece it together. I can also see there's been an incredible amount of stone construction at that side, almost like a large wall of some sort. Right then, folks, that's me just about back down at the main road where I originally walked into this site. It's been so cool to see all that history that I had no idea even existed at the top side of that fence. Those buildings leading up that side, which then led us round to find the old dam. And then to follow it back round and then find the source, well, the site of the old water wheel. It's been so interesting, and it's been so cool to document another bit of Scottish history here on the channel, folks. Anyway, I'm going to end this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next scene, wherever I end up going.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the